Hey, I thought I would do a little update on some dialogue stuff. Now it's still in progress. Actually, I started making it and it was like, oh man, this thing is complex. So I've been playing around, just figuring out how I'd really want to do this, and so I'll kind of show you what I have right now, which isn't really a true tutorial. So we have this dialogue system in the canvas, right? And we have where the options fit in, and I used a grid layout group and just a basic AI text, kind of what the AI says. And I made a prefab of what an option is, and it has just more or less a button, but I encapsulated into a empty game object. So anyways, on this thing, all it does is it takes a value and it sets its own text. And then when it gets clicked, it sets that value and it sends it up to this thing called PlayMaker. But it doesn't have any references to anything. It's kind of just empty logic. So on this dialogue system, I kind of broke it up. So we have, hold on. Which one should we do? Oh yeah, wait, I'll do this one. So this guy here, the dialogue system gets itself, it gets info of who sent it, like a request more or less for a dialogue. It gets what the AI would say. What else does it have here? It sets that into its text. It comes along and it finds children of who sent things, and it gets and it starts off with a base. So each dialogue, I put them under this manager. So I have this manager I was making for a library. Don't worry about him, he doesn't do anything. So anyways, like this would be, say for example, a shop dialogue. So this gets him because he sends the event to him and he stores himself, so these two know how to talk back and forth. So when it gets him, it actually finds children, and then we got state, or I use game objects to represent text, I guess you could say. So there's a base. Oh, that's supposed to be under there. And then there's like a strength response and a dexterity response. So it gets the base, it sets things up, and it sends an event to the creation, which I'll get to that in a second. And then it gets values in here. So it gets the player's, say for example, strength, and then it finds this object, it gets its value, and it compares. If the player's strength is higher, then it's going to get this one's text value, and it sets some stuff up in the creation window. And same thing with the dex, where the creation window, this thing gets those events for each option, and it creates that prefab, and then it sets those values, and then it adds this created option into an array. When there's a response, it destroys more or less everything in the array, and that's all that does. What else we have here? Oh, there was something else. And then it also when you get a response, it takes the response, like the actual string of the response, and it fires everything back to this guy. So when this guy gets a response, he gets all this data, but then he also gets the data of what these are, what the text data is in those, and I put the response into a string switch based with the responses of what's in these, and then these can continue on. And for example, this one has 2 stages, right? So this thing is actually just like this. It's the exact same setup. So then this one says, hey, you run now, it's your turn. And then this guy would have all those same strength decks if those are options. So it's insanely complex, and I'll kind of show you. So here is, we have these different things, right? So if I say, now I don't have all the logic built for these two, right? So if I just say that, it just kind of ends. But if I say punch shopkeeper in the face, he says ouch. Okay, so one of the other things is this. If I take my dexterity down, these guys have a value check of, I think, 4. So if the dexterity isn't there, notice how it's not showing up now, right? I can still punch him in the face and everything still works. All right, and same thing, if I take the strength down, it just has the get browsing, right? So it is a relatively dynamic system. Oh, I put the 4. That still works. I can steal stuff, right? But that's kind of what it's doing. Is this has this object, which I'd have to prefab this. So this object says, hey, I am going to your window, come do all my stuff. It has each option here of what can be done. So this guy holds the initial AI's how are you, and then we have a base response, a strength response, dexterity response. Depending on which one gets responded, then these guys get activated, right? But it's this, and he gets told used, but he's got the same thing with his own responses, and he would just chain down, and you could have, strength decks here, and then they could just go and go and go and go and go and forever run. But I thought I would share at least that portion of it. I am kind of playing with this dialogue system. It is actually relatively complex. But yeah, there you have it. Slowly working on it. All right, talk to you later.